conversations with Bob Gator, who's the CEO of Europe, remember, I think 80 to 90% of decisions that we make as human beings are made subconsciously. And so we might be able to say or try to articulate what it is that we want, but that ultimately we don't really know what we want, and we in many ways are told that. And oftentimes, your eyes are less effective than your ears in convincing what it is that you want to do. And he's done research and we've looked into this, which is it's because the power of the imagination is so much stronger when you're having an audio experience. And again, to your point of parenting, that's what you want to do as a parent, is instill that curiosity and that imagination, which is a lot easier when you're going through an audio experience than when you're just seeing something on the TV. So we know that smart speakers and voice-activated technology have changed the way that people are consuming audio, generally shifting audio in terms of how it's being used in the overall media landscape. And of course, because I'm NPR, I'd love to hear you talk a little bit about the spoken word and what you've seen. You touched a little bit about the podcast, but what you have seen people's adoption rate in terms of spoken word consumption and how that's shifted.
Yeah, it's one of the real behavior changes that we've seen. I've been doing audio research for 25 years now, a lot of different media and technology. And the number of young people that we saw listening to news on these devices flabbergasted me. Certainly, if the demographics for a commercial AM news talk station, or the average age for those stations is usually 50. But we had all kinds of evidence of millennials and 18 to 29-year-olds adding news to their diet where it didn't exist before. We also know from the Smart Audio report that all forms of spoken word audio consumption increased.
You talked about how the first thing that people do is say, what's the weather, or can you tell me when the Super Bowl in 2016, and how that's sort of a Trojan horse to other adoption. But how do you go from this very simple path of whether it's going to rain or not today to here's all the information you need to open up my windows, lock my doors, order batteries, get the groceries. Like that's a pretty far path from here all the way to you have full control of everything going on. Can you talk about that journey?
Well, it starts with trust. That's one thing I know that the folks at Amazon and Google have spent a lot of time on, is creating a trusted environment with these devices. And there are still, I think, there are some trust issues with them, but because they're sort of useful and in the background, we certainly have plenty of evidence that people address them at least politely, if not as a family member. We encourage our children to be very polite to our smart speakers because we figured in about 5 years when everything goes Skynet, we're going to be happy with that decision. But it's also just sort of good manners, I think. But as that trust increases, people become more and more curious about what other things can they help you with. And I think especially for brands, that's the thing to think about. These devices at their heart remove friction. When they're first purchased, they remove friction from audio listening, but they can actually remove friction in many parts of their life that people will begin to explore.
It's funny to mention that about the politeness. There's a journalist at NPR who I talked to a couple days ago when I saw her in the hallways, and I was talking to her about smart speakers because I was coming here laying after. She had smart speakers, and she said, "No, I'm not getting them until they require my 15-year-old to say please and thank you before they do things." And so I told her, I said, "I actually think that does exist now." So she said she was going to look into it. But it is important that we maintain our manners. And to get back to the family and this notion of radios being back in the home, there is a communal sense of people gathering around a radio that sort of is somewhat nostalgic from the 40s, and people would listen to the president's fireside chats or War of the Worlds or whatever it is. And I know that I think it's 47% of people listen to these smart devices when there are other people numbers that Wow in the World, one of our kids' podcasts, I believe is one of the most downloaded podcasts onto smart, listen to podcasts onto smart speakers. Because parents want to share this experience, and this kid-oriented podcast with them. Can you talk a bit more about what that's bringing out in people in terms of the emotions of sharing a community experience?
We did, in not this most recent round, but last year, we conducted more ethnographic research as part of the Smart Audio Report. And one of the families that we spent some time with, the father just really made a few just remarkable statements explicitly. And he talked about how when his daughter, he had a very young daughter, his daughter would come home from school and they would ask her to tell her about their day. She would just say, nothing, not much. Usually it takes until teen years to get so sullen, but she was fairly sullen. But what having an Alexa device, is the one that they had in their living room, did was it gave them something fun to do together. She would talk about a dance she learned in school. She would ask the device to play the song and do it. They would interact and play games. They would play 20 questions and some other kind of fun trivia games. It was a fun activity to do as a family. And you're right, we haven't really gathered around the radio since the Palmolive Beauty Box Hour in 1938. And a lot of that has to do with a decade of those little white earbuds, basically. We spent a decade listening to audio privately, and these devices are bringing it back out into more of a communal setting. And again, it's not just audio, it's games and entertainment. And we also see that when people get these devices in their home, they don't just accidentally use them in front of other people, like friends. They do it on purpose. They kind of show them off a little bit at some of the things that they can do, so they almost sell themselves when people do that. But you're right, there's a real communal aspect, a real social audio, but also just social gaming in general, and information sharing with these devices that happen.
So you have these Trojan horses, not to make everybody too nervous or whatever, in your homes, and you have this capability with voice-activated technology. I know that at NPR, we are creating content. We're not just making it so that those platforms can make it easy to access your local public radio station, but also creating content so that people can access it quickly. What are other, based on conversations that you've had in the industry, sort of other places where companies can take advantage of this platform and sort of push the boundaries?
One of the things I love about this platform, and you and I are in the same business in a way, and that is, how can we ruin things with advertising? Well, we don't really want to ruin things with advertising. But one of the great things about these devices is you can actually reach people by helping them. And I think that's really the great promise of things like branded skills, is that if you can figure out a way to remove friction from a person's life, then they will welcome that skill into your home. In fact, in a previous iteration of the Smart Audio Report, we gave a number of different ways that people could receive advertising messages, branding, sponsorships, etc. We listed about 10 of them. And number one by a lot was, in terms of being tolerated or even welcomed, were branded skills on these devices. And I use a variety of them every day. I use the allergy cast from Zyrtec. I learned about things I'm allergic to I had no idea even existed, things I can't even pronounce. And there's myriad examples of things like that, where if you add something to people's lives that takes a little friction away, then that trust quotient goes up a little bit more. And I think as long as, from a brand perspective, you don't violate that trust and you actually make people's lives easier, then you will actually be welcomed into people's homes. And this is an environment where I suspect we are being exposed, in some senses, to fewer messages than ever before. You think about how much time we spend, not just with things like public radio, but also podcasts, which are fairly advertising spartan. How much time we spend with things like Pandora and Spotify, which are relatively ad spartan, or Netflix, which is free of overt advertising. We spend more and more time with these things, and we actually have fewer and fewer opportunities to be marketed to by brands. So I think shifting a branding mindset to being helpful kind of works for all of us.
And speaking of helpful, how many of you all listen to Wait, Wait, Don't Tell Me? Anybody, audience members, know Wait, Wait, Don't Tell Me? So one of the things that we've just sort of put out there in a soft way is an interactive Wait, Wait, Don't Tell Me quiz, which we have found very, very popular. Again, it's a fun thing for people to play. It's something that they know about, exists already, and they're already using it. So we have these smart speakers, and I believe Some of them, we know that sometimes people have a hard time discovering podcasts, and we talked a little bit about people knowing how to use a little bit on their smart devices. I know that the Smart Audio Report revealed that only, I think it's half of the people we spoke to actually know how to use the features on their devices. So how are ways that brands, to your point, with Zyrtec, how are other ways that brands can go ahead and take advantage of this to teach people how to use those devices so that they can pick up more and more benefit in their lives?
Well, certainly the devices themselves and finding ways to have messaging in the content that is on the devices. You certainly can't ask Amazon or Google to run ads for you, but there are certainly other forms of media on those devices, and having messaging about skills on the devices themselves is the most logical way. But really, it's just it's kind of branding 101. If you can do something that will help people and be associated with it, getting that message out any way you can. I noticed there's so much messaging in Las Vegas this week. The entire monorail was wrapped, which kind of blows my mind. But I think certainly getting that word out on the devices themselves, getting that word out on things like podcasts, which certainly have a tremendous correlation with smart speaker ownership. Those are the things that I think are incumbent on a brand that really wants to make a difference. Because, as I said, as we retreat more and more into subscription services and more sort of advertising spark environments, it becomes more and more difficult to reach people with sort of traditional interrupt style advertising.
So now we've been talking about 21% of people have smart speakers, 79% don't. How do you get more adoption of them? Like, is that something that sits with the manufacturers? Is it with content providers? Or how can we as an industry push those more?
I would say two things about that. First, the immediate answer is going to be the car. And I think because really what we're talking about here is not smart speakers per se, it's voice assistant technology. And when voice assistant technology gets baked into the car, you're going to see dramatic uptick both in voice assistant usage, but also in consumption of media in the car, period. We did another study a couple of years ago called the Commuter Code, where we took a sample of commuters and we mounted GoPro cameras in their cars at whatever they used for entertainment, whether it was their radio or their smartphone, or if they had an in-dash internet-based entertainment system. And we coded what they did in an average commute. And what we discovered may seem counterintuitive to some of you. The people who had the most tech in their cars, the people who had access to the most programming options, switched the least. And that's because they could get exactly what they wanted. So they didn't have to jump around and kind of satisfy. They could get exactly the quality of content they wanted with less friction. And once these devices get put into the cars, then it will be completely friction-free. After all, you can't really change programming on your smartphone while you're driving unless you'd like to die. But if you could do that with your voice, that's going to become a lot easier. But the second thing I would say is really hidden in plain sight in the deck that I just showed you, and that's the increased usage of voice assistant technology on the smartphone. I think ultimately, there will be so many smart speakers sold, and no more, perhaps. But the technology is going to be baked into everything. The technology is going to be baked not just into your car. It's going to be baked into your TV. It's going to be baked into your refrigerator. Perhaps your refrigerator will tell you not to drink that milk. All of these things are going to take place and add to the continued usage of voice assistant. So, to me, yes, there will be there may be a cap on the percentage of people who own a smart speaker, but the real question is how many people use voice assistant technology.
Right. I think one of the most remarkable stats, and you mentioned this, is that most people that own one smart speaker, more people actually own two. So it's not just penetration to those who don't have it, but it's the number of people who have multiple devices in their homes. And which ones they're going to. I know that the share of market initially was very strong with Amazon. Google seems like it's making a big run for it right now. Samsung is making some interesting announcements about how they're going to be allowing those voice-activated devices, I believe, on their TVs. Any insights in terms of market share and where that's going to net out in the future?
The only thing I'm not a forecaster. I'd be a crappy one, I think. But the only thing I'm fairly confident about is that there's not going to be one winner. I think one of the other stats that I showed, just sort of glossed over really quickly, one of the reasons why, one of the top 5 reasons why people who say they're going to buy another smart speaker is to try the other technology. I mean, the cost of entry is so low that we're seeing much more overlap. I mean, the very first year we did this research, there was almost no overlap. It was all Alexa and Google, and you own one or the other. But now people are increasingly owning both. And again, they're just sort of fun to play with for a lot of people, and the cost of entry is so low. So I think, I don't think there's going to be any one winner, and I think the ecosystem is going to support even more players.
Well, we have a little bit of time, and we can turn down the bright stage lights and up the house lights. If anybody has any questions, you can come over to we have microphones in the, here in the middle of the room, and you can ask your questions.
Good morning. Peter Coleman, InDesign Technologies, Sydney, Australia. Thank you for your insights, and it was quite fascinating. What research have you done in relation to the impact that this technology is having in the workplace?
I couldn't hear the last part.
What research have you done on the impact that this technology is having on the workplace?
On the workplace?
Yeah.
We haven't done anything specific on the workplace yet. Certainly our ethnographic studies obviously have been very focused on in-home usage. But that's certainly something we may focus on in future iterations of this. So we've done about 5 different studies in the course of the Smart Audio Report. We have not touched on the workplace yet, but thanks for the idea.
Thank you.
Thanks. Hi.
Maybe another idea. Has any of your research covered speech recognition and how that's progressing? Right now, they're getting simple commands. When will it become a more conversational experience?
The only thing I can say to that, I can speak to generally from other projects that I've done in this space, is that, as I mentioned sort of at the end today, the consumer perception is that they're kind of almost magical. Like right now, the perception is not that they are not able to do things that people want them to do and they're frustrated. They don't even know how good they are, I think. So that is something we may pay a little bit more attention to, and we certainly have not done anything like look at the perception of one technology versus another. Not even sure that we would do that. But right now, opinions are high about the quality of this tech and these devices.
Yeah, kind of commenting with the first presentation that we had this morning on data and privacy. Any research like on consumer privacy concerns, like what they're listening to, what they're gathering and reflecting?
Absolutely. From the first iteration of the Smart Audio Report, we asked people who had an interest but had not yet purchased one of these devices. We had a sample of about 800 non-owners who were at least aware and interested why they had not purchased one. The number one reason was price, which I think that's really starting to evaporate. But of the top 8 reasons, 3 of them were privacy related. In fact, one of them was, and a little over 30% said this, I believe, concern over the government listening to their conversations, which may have sounded tinfoil hattish 10 years ago. I'm not sure it's so far-fetched today. These concerns are valid. These concerns are going to have to be addressed by the device manufacturers. But there will be a hard cap on the number of people who want them always listening in their homes. And certainly, we have talked to people that don't want them always listening in their homes. So it is something that's going to have to be addressed, I think, particularly for some of the other uses of these devices that people are beginning to explore, like health monitoring. Health monitoring is a definite use case. We see a lot of people who have older parents buying them for their parents, but there are some concerns about how much information these devices have access to. So it is one of the stumbling blocks for some people buying these, and that is something that the device manufacturers want to address.
So thank you all for joining us. The presentation that you saw from Tom today on the Smart Audio Report will be available on your apps, your CES app tomorrow. But later today on npr.org/smartaudio, you can get all of the new findings and all of the previous reports as well. Thank you all very much for joining us today.